All right. So, welcome to Achieve Brown County's Reading for the Future Community Learning session. My name is Sarah Beckman, and I'm our Executive Director here at Achieve Brown County for those that have not met me. And I'm joined by two wonderful people today to talk through our learnings as we've been working in the early grade reading space. So joining me today is Todd Sutton, who is our Director of Continuous Improvement at Achieve Brown County, and Eden Weller of Weller Workshops. And Eden is a human-centered design consultant that we've been working with throughout 2023. And so I'm excited to just touch base on our agenda for today and talk through what we'll be going through during our presentation today. And it looks like our slides are moving a little bit slow, but I am going to keep talking and hope that the slides catch up with me. Here we go. So we're going to start just with a brief history and recap of our work in the Reading for the Future space, which dates back to the summer of 2021. And then Eden will share a brief overview of the human-centered design process that we've been working through this year. And then together, Eden and Todd will be talking about the prototypes that were created as part of our human-centered design process this year. And then Todd will close us out talking about the big picture and the way forward. So what is Achieve Brown County's role in the work that we're doing around Reading for the Future? And where are we going from here? So I will jump right into the history and recap of our time in the Reading for the Future space. As I mentioned earlier, we've been working in this space since the summer of 2021. So on the far left of this timeline, the far left, top left, Green Bay Area Public Schools and the Brown County Library approached Achieve Brown County in the summer of 2021 after recognizing the state of third grade reading in our community. And third grade reading is an important metric because children learn to read up until third grade, and then reading is used for learning in other areas of education through graduation. And so we had decided much of ABC's role is centered around convening, supporting, and facilitating. And so we launched a Reading Success Summit planning team following outreach from Green Bay Area Public Schools and the Brown County Library. And that team's goal was really to plan a community summit to rally the community and inform the community around the state of third grade reading proficiency in our community and throughout Brown County. And so so that team formed in the fall of 2021 and met through the fall of 2022 when the summit took place. And throughout that year of meeting, there was a lot of work that took place in terms of both quantitative and qualitative data around third grade reading proficiency being collected and doing a lot of root cause factor analysis work. We held community listening sessions with around 130 parents raising readers to learn about their experiences raising the reader in their home. We held that summit. As a result of the summit, we established a shared community vision. And then in January of this year, we launched a Reading for the Future strategy team coming out of the summit. And that team's purpose was to identify short and long-term solutions to change the trajectory of third grade reading in our county. So from January through April of this year, that team met, at which point we were introduced to Eden at Weller Workshops and his approach in using human-centered design to solve for complex social problems. And we hired him to work with us to facilitate us through a process of human-centered design. And so we worked with Eden from May through August of this year and held several 6-hour workshops, which resulted in 9 low to medium fidelity type prototypes of solutions that we're going to be presenting today to all of you. And so that leads us to today and these community learning sessions. So we did some community learning sessions live and in person. And this is a recorded version for anyone that could not attend one of those community learning sessions. So all this work has taken place throughout the last 2 years through facilitation with Achieve Brown County. And in the meantime, and in the background, our community has also been taking action. And so we want to share a couple highlights of successes and early wins that all have come as a result. And after the Reading Success Summit was held. So one of the highlights is that UW Green Bay Chancellor Mike Alexander was at the summit, and coming out of the summit, they launched a literacy initiative on campus. One of the really exciting programs that came post Reading Success Summit, we had several attendees at the summit, as well as organizations identify and have interest in bringing the Dolly Parton Imagination Library to our community, and how Community Resource stepped up and is serving as the lead agency to bring this resource to our communities. So there are children in our community in multiple zip codes now receiving books in their homes on a monthly basis through this program. And then our volunteer center in Brown County has the Reading Coaches for Kids program. And that program has really grown tremendously since the summit has taken place, with an influx of volunteers reaching out and getting trained and placed in elementary schools throughout Green Bay area public schools to read one-on-one with children in grades kindergarten through third grade. So these are some of the really early successes that we've been seeing. So now I want to transition over to Eden to give an introduction to human-centered design before we dive into prototypes.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. So I'm going to go over a process of what human-centered design is, and then go into opportunity framing and share some of the opportunities that we framed up as a workshop group. As Sarah said, this was a series of workshops that took place this summer, and we followed the human-centered design approach. So what is it and what does it mean? Human-centered design is a philosophy, it's a mindset, it's also a method. And I'm going to talk kind of a high-level methodology 101 here, and then we'll get into kind of what we created collaboratively. So it starts with it's a process that starts with an understanding of who you're designing for, keeping the humans at the center of the process. And it's about building empathy for those that you're designing for, getting a group together to understand kind of that challenge space and the problem that you're working to solve, and then coming up with a bunch of ideas, building out those ideas into prototypes, and then getting feedback and testing that process, those opportunities. Here's the mindset piece borrowed from the Stanford Design School. You can see those here. The ones that I like are the embrace experimentation. So sometimes we wait until we have it perfect to come up with a solution. This one says build something, get it out in front of people, talk to people, get feedback. So using that experimentation mindset. The radical collaboration is a big one too, right? So bringing folks together to share thoughts on this, diverse perspectives. We all kind of have our unique lived experience, and this is a chance for us to empathize with those that are closest to that process, bring in our lived experience, and work on something together. Where should we apply human-centered design? Just kind of like, when is this useful? It's the problems that require insight. So these are problems that we need to fix something. There is a better way to do this. We need a better understanding of the humans that are experiencing this problem. The innovation piece, it's an innovation process. So just kind of a realization that what got us here won't get us there. We need to try something different. Something that requires change, problems that trigger change. So challenging normal ways of thinking and traditional practices, kind of mindset shift stuff. And then human-centered design can be applied to problems that require addressing diversity. So reflecting the need to put different perspectives at the table and involve them into the process. So I met ABC team in late 2022, early 2023, when we were talking about opportunities. They're talking about kind of reading for the future initiative, and Sarah outlined some of that in the open. Here's the quote that stuck with me and where it made sense, where my mind clicked to say, well, there's a real opportunity here for human-centered design. It's making sure that the voices of the families and kids that are experiencing these gaps in early reading proficiency are included in the process of creating solutions that will work for them. Here's the project goal stuff. A lot of words here, but I thought it was important to kind of outline, okay, what were you trying to accomplish here? And this was the long-term vision. So getting a group together, building alignment and forward momentum amongst the stakeholder team through participatory workshopping. So we started with leveraging existing learnings. We spent a good amount of time talking about what we know and what we don't know and understanding where those gaps are. From there, then I'll talk a little bit about kind of the primary research that we did, the empathy interview approach. And from there, then we framed opportunities and potential solutions to achieve that impact. We built a number of prototypes to test and map how they fit. And we are working to create a roadmap and experimentation plan around what to do with those prototypes. The first step of that is these community learning sessions where we are presenting the prototypes and getting some feedback. Here are the different components of that, of human-centered design or design thinking. I'm going to high level each one of these, but just kind of at a high level, this is what I'm talking about when I say human-centered design. These are the steps that we followed as part of our workshopping experience. It starts with empathy and empathizing with the voices of those that we're creating for. So to gain a deeper understanding of the human's experience around the issue that we're looking to improve. Sometimes it's difficult to see beyond our own vantage point within the system. So this is an opportunity for those that were involved in the process to identify what they felt a missing voice was, where they felt the knowledge gap was, and from then we ask good open-ended questions. And so they're opening up a window to their experience and providing us a valuable gift that we use as kind of the foundational knowledge to create from. So our first step there is just who are the humans or the groups of humans that we want to put at the center of this work. This next slide shows that kids and teachers, early education. We spent a good amount of time as a group talking about where we felt we have knowledge gaps and who we want to center this work from. From there, then we do the empathy, the actual empathy interviews. You go out as partners and pairs, and we talked to educators, we talked to teachers, we talked to youth, we talked to administrators, and we bring all of that back and unpack that. Then you move into define or frame, this next step here. Purposefully not jumping to solutions yet. So this is the second workshop where what did we learn? These are unpacking the empathy interviews as part of that. What were their goals? What were they excited about? It's about kind of the emotions, both what they told us and what they didn't tell us, what emotions they were experiencing, what they thought or heard or felt or seen. And if we can understand that together as a group, then we understand the problem and the challenge better, and we can collaborate on what that solution is, what those solutions might be. We move this into the framework that we use. You'll see this as we get into it. When we visited with, so the description of the target audience, we heard or learned, which is that key element or insight. What's the challenge or hurdle or problem that we're excited about solving for, which leads us to believe there's an opportunity to. So the action statement or the impact, it's the what and not the solution itself. So we did this a bunch of times. I think we had 20 plus different opportunities framed out during this step, and it's really causes us to pause before we jump to the solution, kind of push at, are we really solving? What's the challenge we're really solving for? What's the impact we want to have? Ideate is the next step in the process. It's the terminology of what we use. It's brainstorming. It's coming up with different ideas to solve. We use the how might we language. I like very much, and it resonated with the group. The how suggests that we don't have the answer yet. Might emphasizes there are many different paths that we can go down when thinking about solutions. And the we is about the teamwork piece of it, that we should all do this collaboratively and work together to come up with a joint solution. That's the magic of human-centered design or design thinking. It is about the collaboration that takes place through it, the excitement, the energy that comes through it when we're working together on this and kind of challenging our traditional assumptions. Prototype is language that you've heard. That's what we use. That's what we create, right? We create something tangible. So we have a bunch of ideas. We review the key information. This is the process that we use to sketch, start the design work, some rapid sketch variations, get these ideas out of our heads and onto paper. Helps us build on these solutions, helps us share them, helps them become real and tangible. And then the solution sketch there, where you see kind of the low fidelity 3-panel storyboard that we use. That becomes our first low fidelity prototype. And then from there, it's all about getting feedback. So that loop there is really important to the process. We're not done when we have that low fidelity prototype. It's a vehicle to have a conversation with another human being. And we share our opportunity frame and we share our low fidelity prototype and we say, does this resonate? Help us make it better. It's clearly not finished yet and we need more input on it. So that's the loop that we go from ideate to prototype to test and stay in that loop until we have enough energy to move forward. And it's all about the people working together, right? These are my favorite photos of this. It's the people that came together to help us build these things. I stand in front of the room and walk through a process. It's about the energy and the collaboration and the teamwork of the community to come in and build these things. And these are some photos from our workshopping experience at Brown County Library. Kind of some different steps here. We had a group come in and give us some feedback on the last day. So from workshop 1, where it's unpacking empathy interviews, to the last workshop where it's about, hey, let's get these in front of humans to get some feedback on them. You see some prototyping work taking place as well. And then this is the opportunity frame. So we did 20 plus of these. We have 3 to share with you. Just to kind of get you in the sense of who we talked to and what these looked like. Opportunity number 1, when we visited with parents, we heard or learned a feeling of inadequacy and inability to assist and help with learning in the home, which leads us to believe there's an opportunity to build confidence and provide tools for parents to help with learning at home. So we will jump into the prototypes here. Todd and I are going to tag team this. We have 7 prototypes to share, and we'll do that.
Sorry, it's lagging on me here. Just give me a moment. There we go. And now it's probably going to jump too. Go ahead, Eden.
Sounds good. So reading for the future prototype 1, the opportunity frame. When we visited with community stakeholders, including parents, teachers, and volunteers, we heard or learned a sense of overwhelm and a lack of awareness of the many resources, programs, and tools available to support early literacy. And a gap exists as it relates to who is utilizing. This leads us to believe there's an opportunity to match resources with the individual needs and interest of youth and families that otherwise would not use or leverage.
And the resulting prototype then was named Community Connectors. And I should just mention that all of these names are just starting points. They're not the final, this is not the end point. It's a place to further iterate on these examples, both in name and description and imagination. So, but this one, first draft is Community Connectors. It aims to address the identified needs and opportunities for improving access to resources and support for children and families, particularly in early literacy and education. And so we use the Imagine framework for mapping out some potential Ideas around solutions. So imagine mapping resources and simplifying navigation. Imagine creating easier access to supportive resources. Imagine increasing utilization of supportive resources. Imagine leveraging existing infrastructure, and imagine expanded outreach to targeted communities.
Yeah, this one came out of when we talk to nonprofit agencies that are serving in this space. They know that their programs work. They're happy and have data that suggests that the tools and resources that they're providing are working. They just want it to work for more people. So the awareness aspect of it. And then when we talked to parents, it was some overwhelm, some unknown, and they were asking for programs and tools and resources that are available, and it was just a gap in the awareness. So the team was really grounded in let's leverage what exists today and what we know is working before we jump to new to the world innovations. And this was around kind of creating an ecosystem, getting energy around doing that. Prototype number 2, the opportunity frame here is the same, but I'll read it. When we visited with community stakeholders, including parents, teachers, and volunteers, we heard or learned a sense of overwhelm and lack of awareness of the many resources, programs, and tools available to support early literacy, and a gap exists as it relates to who is utilizing, which leads us to believe there's an opportunity to match resources with the individual needs of interests of youth and families that otherwise would not use their leverage.
And the resulting prototype then is we are all family and we care. This prototype aims to strengthen the social fabric of neighborhoods with a rich network of informal supports that remove barriers and facilitate greater access to essential resources. So we invite people to imagine culturally relevant messaging and representation. Imagine multilingual, multicultural connections. Imagine engaging and centering targeted populations and neighborhoods. Imagine neighborhood networks with multiple personal connections to trusted service professionals. And imagine weaving a stronger social fabric via social support and networks.
Trust is the key word there. Can I trust this? Is this a welcoming environment? It takes a lot of courage, I think, to ask for help in this space is one of the things that we learned. And to say that, I need assistance here. My family needs assistance in this space. Is it a welcoming environment? Are folks going to welcome us in? Is this one that's culturally relevant to my needs? And kind of the focus on kind of the stronger social fabric via social support and networks. So someone from their neighborhood, someone that is relevant to their needs, and someone that they can develop a trusting relationship to say, I need help, and help me match with a resource that I feel comfortable receiving help from. Prototype number 3, the opportunity frame here. When we visited with parents, we heard or learned that there was a feeling of inadequacy and helplessness to assist youth and help with learning in the home, which leads us to believe there's an opportunity to build confidence and provide tools for parents to help with learning at home.
So the resulting prototype is named Every Child is Ready to Read. It aims to create a holistic and inclusive framework that actively engages and involves parents and caregivers and the community in supporting children's early development and education, with the goal of nurturing a thriving, educated, and prosperous community. Imagine empowering parents and caregivers through education and support. Imagine parents and caregivers playing, singing, talking, reading, and writing daily, early, and often. Imagine elevating parents and caregivers as the first most important teacher. And imagine making learning and reading fun.
Yeah, we heard from educators in our empathy interviews around the importance that parents play, about kind of the fact that they can't do it alone, just kind of the importance of what happens outside of the classroom. And when we talk to parents, We heard a little bit of pushback to say, you know, I'm not the expert. I don't feel confident in doing this. I don't want to get in the way of the teacher. So kind of that confluence is where we thought there was an opportunity space to create something for parents and caregivers to support early. I think that that's key as well. The placing talk, read, write every day, kind of in that 0 to 5 space, about how important that is. Prototype 4, the opportunity frame. When we visited with parents and teachers and early childhood education and administrators, we heard or learned that students feel pressured toward pursuing a 4-year degree, and a negative perception exists around other career and educational opportunities. Students begin to feel like they aren't good enough if they don't fit the mold of a traditional college student, which leads us to believe there's an opportunity to reframe education and career opportunities outside of 4-year degrees, get youth excited about pursuing a career in the trades, and change mindset around what success looks like in this space.
And the resulting prototype for this one is called Brown County Business Pledge, that aims to engage and encourage local businesses to commit to and invest in early literacy and educational support, and develop new ways to support their employees in helping their children gain literacy skills. Imagine business-led literacy promotion. Imagine workplace policies that support employees raising children. Imagine mentoring initiatives connecting professionals to students, and imagine diverse educational and career pathways.
This came out of, you know, what is businesses play in this, in the community, and what can they do? The youth are obviously the future workforce for these businesses, and they're employing the parents of these youth. So where can we ask for support from businesses? And this is the kind of the pledge concept here around both reshaping the perception of what success looks like, getting kids excited about maybe non-traditional paths, both to education and career, and then making kids feel like they have a future, and understanding that it might look different for each individual, but they are enough and they do have a future in this community. Prototype 5 is Brown County report card, and the opportunity frame is when we visited with multiple stakeholders. We heard or learned that deficit-based, negative, highly pressured perspective of reading and academic achievement, which leads us to believe there's an opportunity to reframe the perspective of reading and education to an asset-based opportunity, and to flip the narrative and lens.
So the resulting prototype here is Brown County report card, aims to redefine assessment and proficiency measures to create a more equitable, inclusive, and supportive educational system, ensuring that social and emotional well-being of students are valued alongside academic achievement. So imagine rebuilding the measure of proficiency. Imagine holistic and equitable assessment. Imagine measuring student growth versus achievement, and imagine better measurement of student learning.
Yeah, this one was all around bilingual learners and multilingual learners, and proficiency levels in the assessment. Switching the narrative for bilingual learners, recognizing them as assets to the community, and then I think figuring out kind of what that a different assessment or measurement would be, kind of a reading benchmark assessment, the state level snapshot with the forward exam, and then some progress monitoring. What would that look like if we created something that worked best for Brown County? And I think we heard from teachers kind of frustration with that single level snapshot of what's being measured. So what would be a more holistic, equitable measure in building in some of those components? Prototype number 6, engaged and empowered educators. The opportunity frame, when we visited with teachers, we heard or learned that their subject matter expertise and training and experience isn't leveraged to its fullest potential, and there's a lack of autonomy in their classrooms. which leads us to believe there's an opportunity to shift power structures, to give teachers more autonomy, to use their knowledge and expertise to support the variety of learners in their classroom.
Well, the prototype that resulted from this is named Engaged and Empowered Educators. It aims to engage educators more proactively in the educational process, change the narrative around reading expectations, empower educators with more autonomy, and create a more inclusive, engaged, and supportive educational environment while attracting and retaining talented educators to Brown County. Imagine educators involved in decision-making and curriculum development. Imagine developing a pipeline of qualified educators. Imagine ongoing teacher training and support. Imagine innovative instruction and borrowing best practices. And imagine prioritizing and increasing investment in education.
It purposefully used the educator language here because of the early childhood education, including kind of the 0 to 5 space, and also teachers. We heard from a teacher as we were talking about what we were working on here. They said, "Oh, great, what are you going to tell me I have to do next?" Which led us to this opportunity of, right, like they need a seat at the table. We're only as good and strong as our educators and teachers. What if we leveraged their experience and expertise and knowledge and care differently and packaged that into a prototype? And then this is our final opportunity, kind of final prototype that did not have a formal opportunity frame.
Yeah, the resulting prototype that came out of some of the conversations of the workshop attendees was, it was sort of an aha, you know what we need? And it's named Get Lit. Again, these names, we heard in some of our in-person sessions that this name didn't really resonate with people. And so again, this is just a starting point. It may not continue to be at this name, but here it is at the low fidelity level. It essentially aims to effectively raise awareness, change the narrative, and mobilize our community to take action to improve literacy in Brown County. So imagine a marketing campaign emphasizing the importance of literacy as foundational for all learning. Imagine shifting the narrative towards solutions. Imagine a burning platform that creates urgency around the issue. Imagine reading is a right and literacy equals freedom. And imagine inspiring action and engaging community members.
Yeah, really around how do we communicate this as a need? How do we communicate the importance and value of this and why we're doing this? And if we're going to broadly shift narrative, we need to think about kind of what that communication platform and approach looks like.
So the other thing that we did in these sessions is that we invited all attendees to let us know what we left out and what areas they might want to solve. And we had a parking lot up in the room and people contributed to that. I won't share all that information here. Understand that there are more than just these 7 prototypes. These were condensed from hours of time that people spent in conversation around these issues, multiple pages of notes and post-its and things that helped to develop and create these prototypes. And we recognize that these aren't the only areas where there needs to be work. These are just the ones that formed from those workshopping events. So now I'd like to shift into the big picture. I'm going to talk about Achieve Brown County's role, talk a little bit about what success looks like, talk about a framework for systems change, and looking at moving from ready state to steady state. So most of you, many of you don't know me. I'm very new to my role. I am just about 2 months, I guess a little over 2 months into my position at Achieve Brown County, but this is my son, Drew. He's my why. This little guy is why I'm involved in this work. Drew is 11 years old, and he's a sixth grader at Fox River Academy in Appleton, Wisconsin. And Drew is, he's my heart, right? He is, I'm biased toward him, of course. He's my son, but I love him dearly. He's bright, he's imaginative, he's creative, he's beautiful. He's all the adjectives that you would use to describe your kids, right? And he also struggles with dyslexia and dysgraphia. So he has a neurological disorder that prevents his brain from seeing and transcribing letters accurately and correctly. And so that interferes with his ability to read and write. And so you can just imagine how many ways that impacts him in his school setting. So we've been through a number of countless IEPs in his former school. He attended speech therapy for a number of years in elementary school. He continues to see a tutor at the Dyslexia Reading Connection 2 times a week and has done so for 2 years, and does all of that work just so that he can be able to read at a grade level that's a little bit below his grade level, but he's doing well. But we've had to reach out for other services outside of the school in order to augment his education. And we're very fortunate to be able to have the ability and the capacity to do that, right? We're a dual income household. I have a very flexible job that allows me to drive all the way across town to drop him off at a school that works for him. I can also leave work a little bit early to get him to his tutor and pick him up from tutoring. So I understand that not everybody has those same advantages, and how difficult it is for kids who are struggling with these issues just to be able to read. And so thought I'd just share a little bit about me and my family and my interest in this space and why it's important to me. The imagine there is, I read one time, imagine growing up ashamed of your mind. And that really struck me because that is how my boy lives. He really thinks something is wrong with him and struggles to overcome that. And so how can we make it easier for all kids who are struggling to read? A little bit about Chief Brown County's role. My role in this work is to convene and facilitate and support teams that are working around this. And it's termed collective impact. Many of you are familiar with that term, but we're talking about why collective impact. Obviously, no single person, program, or agency can do all of this complex work on its own. It takes all of us. Collective impact is about working together to move outcomes, to improve rather than prove. It's what we do, not in addition. It's not an additive thing. Has to be what we do all the time. And instead of advocating for ideas, we advocate for what works, and that requires research and solutioning in a different type of way. We all can come up with numerous program ideas. In fact, groups, when they get together and talk about solutions, they immediately jump to those, right? Everybody's got ideas about, what we need. Well, how about we find out what works and just amplify that? So collective impact is about driving scale and looking at system change to affect social change, amplifying individuals, programs, and agency effectiveness and efficiency along the way. So my role is really to hold space and time for all of us to come together and to better understand the system and the community resource and assets that exist, and each other's dreams, challenges, and develop synergies around solutions. So where there is collective will and capacity, I'll be convening teams and scheduling meetings and facilitating dialogue to develop shared goals and test strategies, and then really work through the CI methodology to support teams as they move through that process. And so to what end? Well, we're working together to synthesize an existing body of knowledge and bring new knowledge, ideas, and strategies to solve a wicked social problem. To create conditions in home, school, and community that help kids get excited about learning and wanting to learn and tap into their natural curiosity, which is a primary driver of their motivation. And ultimately to design system level solutions together. A lot of what I'll be talking about is, well, okay, that's a programmatic or that's an idea. How can we incorporate that into system solutions? So I'm inviting you all to become a learning activist and reimagine systems with us. So what would that look like if we achieve success? Well, reimagine a better future for all kids reading at a proficiency level. Maybe 10 years from now, Brown County is recognized for its achievement in this space and transformative improvement in third grade reading proficiency. Again, recognizing that that's just a single data point. It's less than ideal. It's the best one we have. And so that's the aim that we're trying to move the target on that needle. We're trying to turn the curve there. So it takes all of us and that model of collective impact to motivate collective action to do that. So this is the reality check that I always remind people about anytime I'm looking at either programmatic improvement or system improvement or process improvement. People on the outside think it's a direct line that just goes up and that is turn the curve, right, in a nutshell. But that is not how it happens. That what it really looks like on the right-hand side is a lot of hard work, a lot of failing, a lot of testing, failing fast, learning and applying that the learning so that you can continue to iterate and change over time. And then 10 years from now, when you've achieved that success, you're not going to talk about 10 years of that activity, of the bumps in the road necessarily, but people are going to be astonished by the results. And so the other thing that I mentioned in the in-person sessions is that right hand, so imagine a timeline that starts here and moves along horizontally here. In the program space or in an agency space, that might be a 1 year time frame, a 2 year time frame. For small programs, it might be a 6 month time frame. You might get to success in a pretty quick turnaround. But when we're talking about collective impact at a community level and systems change rather than program solutions, this can be 5 to 10 years. This is a long haul, and that's what I'm inviting people into. And I make that very well known before people sign on the dotted line. So conditions for system change. Some of you may have seen this grid. I think it does a nice job. I'm not going to dive into all these details, but I wanted to provide it here. A lot of times when we think about system change, we think about policies, practices, and resource flows. So the structural changes that occur that are necessary for system change to occur, not always sufficient for long-lasting, long-term transformative change to occur, which is down in this bottom end of the pyramid here. And these three areas are really where we're wanting to focus with action teams. And this is what Achieve Brown County is really focused in. Not that we're not doing work up here also and that it's not important, but this is where I'm going to be encouraging people to live, is in mental models. So that idea about moving beyond this narrow conception of achievement based on one test score, instead shifting that paradigm shift toward broadening measures of success. What about civic contributions? What about kids learning in the space of empathy, for example? Those sorts of things. So being open to learning new models and deepening learning experiences. As Eden said earlier, what we have done to this point is not working so well, and we will not get where we want to go without doing things a little differently. So it takes transformative shift in mental models and habits of thought. So trying to let go of those deeply held beliefs is a lot of our work. some of the system level indicators that will demonstrate that we're actually having a system level impact. They're listed here. These are all related to education. And so within each of these, you can imagine probably a number of items or solutions that revolve around this, or data points underneath here. For example, race and ethnicity of teachers and administrators that are relative to the student body, representative of that student body. And so if we were making systemic changes, you would see it there. You would see more teachers of color in our schools, for example. And I won't go over all those examples, but you've got the slide here now, and all of these files will be linked in some way, shape, or form. You'll have access to all of these as well if you want to take and continue conversations around these issues. So in addition to educational system indicators, there are a number of adjacent sectors that we know impact a student's ability to learn and show up and even be in attendance, for example. Financial well-being, food security, housing and homelessness, transportation, and the like. So these are adjacent sectors that we may not focus on directly within our work per se, but we have to be aware that the system is broader than just the educational system, and that there are other sectors that impact the success of anybody in an educational system. And I want to talk a little bit about ready state to steady state. When you think about ready state in this area here, so say we have an action team that has started, how do we know we're ready to start? Well, some of the conditions that are required for a ready state are earned trust, alignment of goals, a leader, a facilitator, maybe some standard agreements that we come to, a well-defined aim statement, all of the key stakeholders are present, voice of customer, so parents and students, parents who are raising struggling readers, and students who either are a struggling reader or have grown beyond that, or maybe they're out of school, but they're not a parent, but they have lived experience with having gone through this. And then, of course, a methodology and metrics to determine whether or not what we're doing is having any impact. And so our work here will be ready and running. And sometimes if you're ready, you're then running, and you want to live in this circle here of ready and running, and sometimes you get blocked. And my role as facilitator is to help get us back to ready and running states. So that is the role of Achieve Brown County, and particularly my role as facilitator of any action teams that result to tackle these prototypes. So the way forward, I just want to share a little bit about the group prioritization of prototypes. So everybody that attended were invited. I'll show you in just a moment on a slide how we did that. Personal commitment, and ask for you to consider which prototype you would like to join. I'll talk a little bit about 8 steps of collaborative improvement and talk about what's next on the way forward. So as I mentioned, as a group, we did a group prioritization of the prototypes. So people were asked to put their name and a number 1 on a Post-it note and add it to whichever priority they thought was the most important thing that we must address first. And so this was all of the prototypes, all of the people who attended prioritized prototypes in that fashion, naming their top 3 from their perspective. And then we did a collective prioritization of those, and I'll share those results now. So this is the collective will, the results of the voting and how things shook out. You can see the number of prototypes on the bottom line there, 1 through 7. And you can pretty quickly and easily see where there was collective will and energy for movement. They were scored. Every number 1 was scored as 3, and every 3 was scored as 1. And so there are weighted scores there as well to show you that turns out every child is ready to read was the prototype that was resonating most significantly for most attendees. Not that the others were not important. Obviously, others had different votes. but this is a quick and easy way to do an exercise to figure out collective will. A little bit about what's coming for folks who decide to raise their hand to join one of the action teams, probably around Every Child is Ready to Read. This is a project charter that is, it's called A3 Planning. It's from Toyota and from Kata. It is a methodology for framing up a problem and determining goals and doing multi-factor analysis and then establishing action plans. So it's a plan, do, study, act. Some of you are familiar with that PDSA terminology. And that's my training and background, and that's what I would be leading teams through. Again, it's just a methodology to work through the prototypes and to dive deeper into each of those prototypes to develop some action plans around what we might try. And then you test those ideas and learn from those ideas and either adjust, adapt, or abandon them. So that is the work ahead over the next year or so, starting with teams, and we'll be doing this for multiple years, as I mentioned before. This is not something that's going to be a quick fix, one and done kind of thing, and we'll have solved the problem of reading proficiency at a third grade level by next year. So this is a long haul, and this is our framework for always keeping our eyes on our aim. So next steps. Well, this is the final sort of presentation of the results and the findings from this 2 years of work. And next steps are to be reaching out to stakeholders that are engaged with Achieve Brown County and to invite other voices in to this work and to begin to build teams around these prototypes and develop action teams and then move through that continuous improvement process. As I mentioned, we'll be diving deeply into those prototypes, develop the charter, and hopefully develop some ideas and solutions for moving forward and testing those throughout the community, and then continuously monitoring them and measuring things to see how we're doing and if we're doing anything that makes a difference. So that's the challenge ahead, and that's our work together. I just would like to invite you into that work. And again, just thank you for your time and attention during this presentation. If you have any questions or want to reach out to any one of us, our contact information is here. You can start with me. And if you're really, really charged up and interested, reach out to me and say, how can I get involved? And we'll get you connected. So Eden, Sarah, anything that you want to add in closing?
For those that made it this far, thank you for sticking with us through a virtual recorded presentation. We appreciate your time and energy towards this work and this space and our early grade reading outcome. Appreciate your time and look forward to your involvement.
Just add, we need more people involved in this, and it's not too late. Now is a perfect time to get up to speed. We're forming teams beginning of next year, so reach out to Todd and have a conversation about how you might be involved in this, and appreciate your time and attention.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.